Right, it's time to talk about VAR. How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me today. And today I'm talking about VAR, the thing that people can't seem to stop talking about since its introduction to Scottish football. Celtic went 9 points clear at the top of the table after their 2-1 win against Ross County at the weekend, but everybody was talking about VAR after the game. There was a big incident in the game. Matt O'Reilly was deemed to handle the ball inside of the box, and it was given as a penalty on review. It looked like Matt O'Reilly's hand was in a normal position, but under the new rules of unnatural position for your hand, the referee deemed it to be in an unnatural position, and a penalty was given as a result. Now, people had a lot of issues with this. Some people were questioning whether it was actually inside the box. It was inside the box because his leg was on the line of the penalty area, and that is inside the box when it comes to these decisions. And the fact of his arm being in an unnatural position, according to the referee, is completely subjective. So the fact that it was a merry-go-round of people discussing whether or not this was an unnatural position, it just goes round and round, and the decision still stands. And that's my biggest issue with VAR, is that everybody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants everybody else to talk about it. It's all that anybody was talking about after the game. And the fact that Celtic are now 9 points clear at the top of the table going into the World Cup break was lost amongst all the chatter around the referee. And that's my biggest problem with VAR as a whole in the Premier League, in international football, and now in Scottish football, is that the football is almost secondary to everything else that goes on in terms of the referee. If you looked at Celtic Twitter at the weekend, you wouldn't have even known there was a football match ongoing in the middle of this refereeing display that we were seeing, because that was literally anybody was talking about after the game was how bad the referee was. This decision, that decision, was Ralston pushed in the box? I mean, these are the discussions that you always end up with in a pub, but now they're under a microscope. Now we're seeing replays of them. And fine, if you want to call them out, that's grand. That's your prerogative to call these decisions out. But if people want to discuss just the football, I think that's okay as well. And the fact that VAR has been taken into the SPFL, firstly, I think it was a mistake. I think you're seeing the mistakes happen at a wider scale now, and we're just seeing replays of the referees' mistakes now. The decisions are staying the exact same. They're still technically going against Celtic at certain points in the game. And here we are. We're still top of the table, as Matt O'Reilly said. And the thing about VAR is that it doesn't make the referees better. It just allows the audience to see how bad the referees are at a wider scale, because we're now seeing replays of these decisions and they're still as baffling as the decisions were before we were seeing the replays for them. It's just driving people even more bananas than it was beforehand. And the Scottish League is not set up for VAR at all, and it's really highlighting the firstly, the lack of infrastructure within the Scottish League and the lack of quality within the Scottish referees. The infrastructure thing was highlighted on Wednesday night when Celtic played Motherwell and that offside for Jota. And we found out after the game that the camera angle that we received, which was a mile away from the play, that adjudged Jota to be offside for his goal, was the angle that VAR used, because the other camera that was in use was pointing somewhere else for the TV broadcast. I think Motherwell had 6 cameras. It's a minimum of 6 cameras that can be used for VAR. That's, 6 up to the amount that the stadium can actually hold. Motherwell had the bare minimum of 6, so therefore one of the cameras was in use for the broadcast. The director is obviously in that cameraman's ear to tell them to get a shot off the manager or get a shot off the ground for some B-roll. That's where the camera that should have been used for the offside was used, and we missed an offside as a result. We got an absolutely horrendous angle as a result. The Premier League, which is still having issues with VAR, by the way, has a minimum of 34 Ultra HD cameras in the stadiums in order to capture the broadcast and the VAR, so that if one camera is not actually pointing at the action, then it's not a complete failure. There is another camera that can capture the same angle or a similar angle or a much closer angle than the one that we got against Motherwell in Fir Park. So as a whole, the league, firstly, is not structurally set up to cope with the technology that we're trying to use. It doesn't have enough technology in order for the technology to be a success. Secondly, the referees aren't trained enough. We don't have enough full-time referees. We don't have good enough referees. And that's reflected in how often Scottish-based referees are used on the international stage and in European competition. The referees aren't good enough. The stadiums aren't good enough. The facilities aren't good enough. Yet we're pushing ahead with a technology that's just going to make things worse in terms of the referees' decisions and in terms of the conspiracy theories that grow within the game about these referees. And this is what it has led to. It's led to Celtic being 9 points clear at the top of the table, having come back fantastically with an individual performance from Hatate that will do well to be topped this year. He was absolutely phenomenal in that second half, dragged Celtic up by the scruff of the neck and brought them to the win that sent them 9 points clear. And yet we're sitting here talking about VAR. We're sitting here talking about referees. The conspiracy nuts are just getting even worse because it's seen to be biased against Celtic. And this is the disaster that the SPFL has allowed to happen because they pushed through with VAR. And it's like Ange said in his post-match press conference, if it wasn't ready, then why are we pushing forward with it? There should be no teething issues with it. VAR has been a thing for multiple years now in multiple leagues across the world. It is tried and tested. We should not have teething issues. That's the problem. They pushed forward when they weren't ready, structurally or individually, for this technology. And it's a disaster. It's going to be a disaster for the rest of the year. And it's all that anybody is going to want to talk about after these games. And that is where I hate VAR. I hate it in the Premier League. I hate it in international football. I dislike it because you get away from the actual action of things. You stop talking about the football. I didn't bring it up on the Huddle Breakdown during the week, and somebody said it was baffling that I didn't talk about VAR. But there's only one way that the VAR discussion can go. This decision happened. Do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? And the person can answer yes or no that they agree or disagree that it was supposed to be a penalty. Whether I think it was a penalty or not, whether 60,000 Celtic fans in the stadium thought Matt O'Reilly handled the ball or not, the referee made the decision that he did handle the ball inside the box and the penalty was given. And that's it. That's all you can do about it. I would much rather sit here and have a discussion about how good Hatate was. Can Kyogo be better? What's Jota going to do? Is his future going to be at Celtic for the next couple of months? That is a far more interesting discussion than sitting here and talking for 15-20 minutes about a refereeing decision that nobody can change. So that's where I stand on the VAR discussion. I wanted to come on here and do a video about the win. I'll leave that until the Huddle Breakdown this week, which will be recorded later on this week with Alan and James. But this is probably the last time I'm going to approach the VAR discussion on the channel. And I stand by that decision. I'm not going to sit here week in, week out discussing VAR decisions, because if people want that, then just go and watch Ref Watch on Sky Sports News and come up with whatever concoction of ideas about who, what, where and why the referee came to that decision, because it's just not going to happen on this channel. That's where I stand on VAR. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video and you want to see more of the non-VAR chat about Scottish football, subscribe to the channel. We'll chat to you later, folks. Good luck.